My name is Riley Carter, and I was 15 the morning my family walked straight through security at Miami International Airport without me. The check-in counter hummed with rolling suitcases and overhead announcements, but all I heard was the sound of the agent counting 5 boarding passes. 5, not 6. My name wasn't on any of them. I remember the way Mom leaned in, perfume sharp like citrus and nerves, whispering, "We'll talk at the gate." But there was no talk, just the press of $180 in cash and a prepaid card into my palm, as if money could keep me company for 2 weeks while she and Brad, her new husband, boarded a cruise ship with his kids. The bills smelled faintly of her leather wallet, warm from her hand, but the weight of them felt colder than the blast of airport air conditioning. I stood there, shoes squeaking on polished tile, while travelers hurried past with neck pillows and beach hats. The Whitaker kids chattered about balcony cabins and dessert buffets, their voices rising and falling like music from a world I wasn't invited into. Olivia glanced back once, smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth, before vanishing into the TSA line. Mom didn't look back, not once. People imagine abandonment as shouting, as slammed doors. Mine was quieter, an efficient shrug, a handoff of cash, and the click of heels fading toward security. And in that silence, everything I thought I knew about love, about family, collapsed like a paper boarding pass dropped in the rain. What I didn't know, standing at Gate D with my compass necklace clutched so tight it cut into my skin, was that this betrayal would uncover truths I was never meant to see, secrets about my past, and a reunion I had stopped hoping for years earlier. Before I tell you how I went from being left behind at an airport to discovering the family I never thought I'd have again, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments, and if this story already has you leaning closer, hit that like and subscribe, because trust me, you'll want to stay for the moment when my mom came back and found my room stripped bare. The air in Miami was damp, heavy with the smell of fried food drifting from airport vendors, but all I could taste was metal, my own breath against the brass compass necklace digging into my palm. The North Point was chipped, just a sliver missing, but I'd carried it for years. Dad gave it to me when I was 8, back when we still lived in our small ranch-style house in Cary, North Carolina. Back when family still meant 2 people laughing in a kitchen too small for both. I remember the day he pressed it into my hand. We were standing in the backyard, cicadas buzzing so loud it felt like the air vibrated. "If you can't find me, Riley," he said, crouching so we were eye level, "just find North. North always points the same way." His voice cracked a little, but he smiled as if that could disguise everything breaking inside. I didn't understand why he had to leave then, only that he did. And Mom never let me ask too many questions afterward. In the years that followed, our life bent and stretched until it no longer looked like the one I'd known. At first, it was just the 2 of us. She worked double shifts, came home smelling of coffee and antiseptic from the diner and the late-night office cleaning. We ate microwave dinners together on the couch, watching reruns of game shows and laughing louder than we should have at things that weren't that funny. But when Brad appeared, it was as if Mom rewrote our entire story. The woman who used to patch my jeans at the kitchen table started speaking in a new language. Brands, resorts, membership clubs. She dyed her hair, wore shoes that clicked instead of squeaked, and laughed at jokes that never reached me. The more she polished herself to fit Brad's world, the more I felt like something she was quietly setting aside, like winter coats boxed up in the attic. The photos proved it. I noticed, one evening, as we unpacked into Brad's house in Apex, the mantel was lined with framed smiles of Olivia at tennis tournaments, Harper with finger paints, Theo holding a science fair ribbon. Mom slipped one picture of us, me at 10, gap-toothed, holding a cheap birthday cake, at the very edge. By the next week, even that was gone. I never asked where she put it. Now, standing in Miami, clutching Dad's compass, I wondered if North was still North, if it could lead me back to someone who hadn't forgotten me. My chest ached, not from the air conditioning, but from something deeper, heavier, pressing down with every step I didn't take. Around me, families hugged before flights, mothers calling after kids who ran too far ahead, fathers juggling strollers and coffee cups. Every scene was a reminder. Family could be chaotic, messy, but it was supposed to mean you belonged. I pulled the compass up, let it dangle against my knuckles. It caught the fluorescent light, a tiny flash against the endless, sterile white of the terminal. For a second, I almost believed it was pointing me somewhere other than back to the empty space Mom had left me in. Maybe the compass knew something I didn't. The line to TSA snaked under harsh fluorescent lights, travelers shuffling forward with passports in hand. I stood at the rope, the crowd pressing behind me, the family I was supposed to belong to moving ahead. My chest was tight, the compass digging into my palm. "Okay," Mom said, voice bright like a commercial jingle. "Riley, sweetheart, this trip is a little different." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Brad checked his watch, impatient. Olivia adjusted her sunglasses even though we were indoors. Theo bounced his knee against a suitcase, and Harper spun in lazy circles, humming to herself. They were already a unit, rehearsed, polished, complete. "Different how?" I asked, the words scraping out more fragile than I wanted. Mom shifted closer, the click of her heels sharp against the floor. "It'll be just Brad, me, and the kids this time. Think of it as a bonding thing." "A bonding thing?" My laugh came out flat, bitter. "I'm your kid." She winced but didn't argue. Instead, she dug into her purse, pulled out a folded stack of bills and a prepaid Visa card. 2 weeks, Riley. The fridge is stocked. You're responsible. You'll be fine." I stared at the money, crisp edges cutting against my skin. "I don't even have a house key." "Mrs. Lang next door does." She said it like she was offering me an extra slice of cake, not an alternative to having a mother. I shook my head. "You're leaving me here, alone at an airport." Her eyes flicked toward Brad and the kids, already at the TSA gate, waving her forward. A pulse jumped at her temple. She lowered her voice, sharp now. "Don't make a scene. This vacation, it's important for our future." I swallowed hard. "Future for who? Because it doesn't look like I'm in it." For a second, silence stretched between us. Behind her, Olivia smirked, like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Mom pressed the money harder into my hand. "You'll be fine," she repeated, but her voice cracked on fine. Then she leaned in, kissed my forehead quick and dry, and stepped back. The rope lifted. TSA waved them through. Brad's hand rested on her shoulder, steering her forward, and just like that, she slipped into the crowd, heels clicking, not once turning around. The noise of the terminal swelled, like the building itself swallowed me whole. The loudspeaker announced boarding for some flight to Atlanta. A baby cried. A couple argued about seat upgrades. None of it touched me. I stood with a stack of cash, a prepaid card, and a compass necklace that suddenly felt heavier than my entire suitcase. "Hey, honey." A voice beside me, a woman in a navy blazer, badge pinned neat at her chest. "Gloria, customer service." Her eyes softened when she saw my face. "You okay? You look a little lost." The truth rose in my throat, sour and hot, but all that came out was, "My mom forgot me." Forgot. Such a small word for something that hollowed me out. Gloria didn't laugh. She didn't even look surprised. She glanced at the cash in my fist, then back at me. "You got someone to call? Someone you trust?" My thumb found the edge of the compass, the chip on the north point. One number flashed in my mind, dusty from years of not being dialed. Maybe I had been rerouted, not erased. Maybe it was time to find out. I sat near a charging station, the airport buzzing like a hive around me. My phone felt heavier than the suitcase at my feet. I scrolled through contacts, so many names that no longer answered. Friends who'd faded, neighbors I hadn't seen in years. And then the one name I'd always been told not to rely on, Dad. My thumb hovered over the screen. I thought about my 12th birthday, the last time we spoke. Mom set the phone on the counter like it was radioactive, and when I picked it up, Dad's voice was there, hesitant. "Happy birthday, kiddo." The call barely lasted 2 minutes before the line cut out. She told me afterward not to expect much from him. Now, 3 years later, here I was, alone, forgotten. Compass digging into my chest. Maybe this number didn't even work anymore. The dial tone rang once, twice, 3 times. I almost hit end when a low, steady voice broke through. "Hello?" My throat locked, but somehow I breathed out. "Dad?" A pause, sharp with disbelief. Then, softer. "Riley? Sweetheart, is that you?" The word sweetheart cracked something open in me. I tried to explain. Miami, the cruise, the cash, the shrug. But the words tangled, spilling too fast, breaking into sobs. People passing by probably thought I was crazy, clutching my phone like it was oxygen. "She left you? At the airport?" His voice hardened, steel over fire, then it steadied again. "Okay, listen to me. Where exactly are you right now?" "Miami. Near the Delta gates. I don't know what to do." "Stay where there are people. Go to the main customer service desk. I'll call ahead. Don't move from a public spot, got it?" I wiped my face on my sleeve, nodding even though he couldn't see. "Got it. I'm coming to get you." I blinked at the departures board above me, the letters shifting from boarding to delayed to final call. "You don't have to. Maybe just send a ticket or—" "Riley?" His voice cut through, not harsh, but firm in a way that didn't leave room for doubt. "I'm coming myself. Tonight." Something inside me stuttered. For years, I'd been told he wouldn't show up, that he never did, and now he was dropping everything. No hesitation, no excuses. He repeated, slower, like he knew I needed the weight of each word. "I'll be there, wait for me." The line clicked silent, but the echo of his promise stayed. For the first time that day, my breath came easier. Not because the airport was safer, but because someone had chosen me. Denver air tasted different. Thin, pine-scented, edged with cold, even in early evening. I stepped out of the arrivals hall, clutching my small suitcase, heart hammering as a figure waved from the curb. Taller than I remembered, hair streaked silver at the temples, but the eyes, those were the same. "Riley," Dad said, voice thick with something heavier than relief. For a second, neither of us moved. Then I let him fold me into his arms, the compass necklace pressed between us. The drive wound upward, city lights fading into dark slopes. His SUV smelled faintly of coffee and old maps. We didn't talk much, just fragments. He asked if I was hungry, if I wanted the radio on. I shook my head, staring at the outline of mountains against the sky. My chest felt full and empty at the same time. His house stood on a ridge above Denver, a mix of glass and timber. Not a mansion, but wide windows, spilling warm light, like it wanted me inside. He carried my bag to a guest room, sheets crisp, a quilt folded neat at the foot of the bed. "It's yours," he said, almost shy. "Unless you'd rather choose another." I ran my hand along the quilt. "This is fine." The word felt too small for what the room meant. Later, exploring, I noticed the basement stairs creaked under my weight. At the bottom, boxes stacked like forgotten chapters. One plastic bin caught my eye, camping gear. I tugged it out, expecting tents, maybe old boots. But inside was a shoebox wrapped in rubber bands. My name was written across the lid. I sat cross-legged on the concrete floor, peeling it open. Birthday cards, neat handwriting slanting across envelopes. To Riley, happy 11th. To Riley, sweet 13. None of which I had ever seen. Inside, small tokens, bookstore gift cards, a charm bracelet, a folded sketch Dad had drawn of us fishing at Jordan Lake. Some envelopes still sealed. My breath caught, throat raw. He found me there, kneeling with the box, his face crumpled, half sorrow, half anger. "You weren't supposed to find them like this." "Mom told me you stopped trying," I whispered. He crouched down, resting his hand on the lid. "I never stopped. She sent letters back, marked undeliverable. Calls went unanswered. I hired lawyers, investigators. Riley, I swear, I didn't walk away." The words rang louder than the furnace kicking on. I stared at the stack of cards, each one proof of years stolen, not forgotten, taken. I picked up one envelope. Inside, a Polaroid of me at age 9, gap-toothed, blowing out candles. Scrawled across the bottom in Dad's writing, "You shine brighter than any candle." Tears blurred the ink. My chest hurt, but not in the same way as Miami. This pain carried truth, not lies. For the first time in years, I realized I hadn't been invisible. I'd been hidden. I looked at him. His eyes were steady, waiting, not demanding forgiveness, just hoping for belief. "I thought you didn't want me," I said, voice breaking. "I wanted nothing else," he answered, simple, sharp, final. I closed the box slowly, fingers brushing the compass around my neck. Maybe north had led me here after all. The box of letters stayed on the basement floor, lid closed but impossible to ignore. Every time I passed the stairs, I felt their weight. Proof that the past wasn't what Mom said it was. Dad didn't press me to talk. Instead, he handed me a mug of cocoa the next morning, steam curling like question marks, and said, "We'll take it one step at a time." That step turned out to be Judith Bennett, a family law attorney with silver hair cut sharp as her tone. She sat at our kitchen table, spreading documents across polished wood. "This isn't abandonment," she said, tapping the Miami airport incident report Dad had requested. "It's abandonment plus interference with custody." Her eyes met mine. "Which means you get a voice now, a strong one." The words settled into me, heavy but steady, like boots planted on solid ground. Later, Dad took me into town. REI smelled like rubber soles and mountain air caught in jackets. He let me pick out hiking boots, the stiff leather squeaking when I tried them on. "They'll soften once you put miles on them," he said. We hiked that weekend, up a trail where the air thinned and the city shrank below. My chest burned, lungs fighting the altitude. Dad slowed his steps, counting breaths with me. In through your nose, 4 beats. Out through your mouth, 6. At first, I hated the rhythm, felt clumsy, weak, but as we climbed, the burn eased, replaced by something new, space. Space in my lungs, space in my head. I realized healing wasn't one giant leap. It was steps, uneven, sometimes painful, but forward. Therapy helped too. Dr. Ames' office smelled faintly of lavender and printer ink. She didn't push, just asked, "What do you carry when you think of your mom?" I touched the compass at my collar. "Wait," I said, then after a pause and proof. She nodded, scribbling something. Maybe the same object can mean both. Maybe it always will. That's okay. At night, I found myself replaying Mom's words at the airport. "This vacation is important for our future." But now, in Denver, I began to understand that my future wasn't something she could define. Dad kept a folder open on his desk, pages of evidence lined in neat rows, bank transfers, returned letters, transcripts of unanswered calls, not weapons, but anchors. For the first time, the truth had structure. I wasn't powerless anymore. I wasn't invisible. And slowly, with each step, each page, each breath counted out against the thin Colorado air, I was building boundaries Mom couldn't cross. The security system chimed before the knock came. On the screen by the door, her face appeared. Perfect hair, designer sunglasses pushed back like a crown. Brad stood half a step behind, jaw locked. My stomach twisted, but this time I wasn't at an airport. I was on higher ground. Dad looked at me. "Your call." "I'll talk," I said, not alone. He nodded. Judith was already there, her legal pad balanced on her knee like a shield. When the door opened, Mom surged forward as if momentum could erase the distance. "Riley, thank God." She reached, arms out. I stepped back. Her hands dropped like she grabbed air. Inside, the living room felt colder despite the fire crackling. She glanced around, eyes skating over timber beams. "The mountain view. So this is it. He lured you with all of this." Her laugh was brittle. Dad didn't rise to it. He gestured to the sofa. "Let's sit." She perched on the edge, back stiff. Brad remained standing, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the floor. I broke the silence first. "You left me. At an airport. Alone. Her mouth tightened. It was 2 weeks. I thought you needed independence. Brad, felt it was better for bonding. You didn't ask me, I said. Her eyes flicked to the folder on the table, papers spread like open wounds, letters, transfers, court filings. Judith's pen hovered, silent witness. You went through my things, Mom said sharply. They were addressed to me, I answered. My voice didn't shake. You hid them. Her shoulders sagged. For a moment, the facade cracked. I was scared, she admitted, voice lower. Brad's world is precise. He wanted a family that fit. I thought if we could just have one perfect trip. You made me the extra seat, I cut in. The words landed heavier than I expected. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Brad shifted, but said nothing. Dad leaned forward, voice steady, calm as stone. This isn't about perfection, it's about protection. And Riley wasn't protected. Judith tapped her pen. Given the abandonment and documented interference, temporary custody lies here. Any future visitation must include counseling. Silence pressed in, thick as the snow outside. I reached into my pocket. The house key from Apex lay warm in my palm. I placed it on the table between us. I don't live there anymore, I said, quiet, final. Mom's eyes filled, tears trembling at the edge but never falling. She reached toward the key, then pulled her hand back. The fire cracked. Outside, the wind moved through the pines, indifferent. I wrapped the compass chain twice around my fingers, its weight grounding me. The door closed with a soft click. No shouting, no slammed exits, just the echo of heels fading down the drive, swallowed by the wind through the pines. I stood in the living room, the fire still burning, the key glinting where I'd left it. For the first time, I didn't feel like the one abandoned. I was the one who had walked away. That night, I sat at Dad's desk with a blank sheet of paper. Words came slow, then faster. I wrote to Mom, not to win her back, not to wound her, but to release myself. Mom, I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this to survive, to grow. I won't live on borrowed love or sit in a house where I'm an afterthought. I've seen the letters, the truth you buried, and I choose to step out of your shadow. If you ever want a way back, it starts with honesty. But for me, the road turns here. I'm not lost. I'm done walking in circles. I folded the letter and placed it with the key, a quiet ending to a story I'd carried too long. The next morning, Dad and I hiked a ridge above Cherry Creek. The air was thin, crisp, carrying the scent of pine and snowmelt. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. At the overlook, the city stretched far below, silver and still. I lifted the compass from my neck. For years, it had been weight, a reminder of absence. Now, in the morning light, it caught the sun, throwing a small flash across the rock. North was still north, but this time I didn't need it to tell me where to go. I knew. I turned to Dad, who was watching me with that careful patience, as if afraid I might disappear if he blinked. I smiled, small but real. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like someone else's to control. Life has a way of teaching us that not every bond is permanent, and not every person we call family will protect us the way they should. What Riley's story reminds us is that our worth is never defined by someone else's failure to love us well. Many of us, especially in adulthood, carry scars from relationships where we felt overlooked, dismissed, or left behind. But scars don't mean we're broken. They mean we survived. And survival gives us a chance to write a different ending. For those of us in the middle and later chapters of life, the lesson is simple but powerful. It's never too late to draw boundaries, to demand honesty, and to choose the people who truly choose us back. Healing doesn't come in a single moment. It's built step by step with every decision to protect our peace and honor our own dignity. Sometimes the strongest act of love is not clinging to those who hurt us, but quietly walking toward the relationships that give us life. If this story touched you, I invite you to pause and think, where in your own life could a gentle boundary bring more peace? And if you feel moved, share your thoughts below. You never know who else might need your words today. May you always remember that you are worthy of being chosen, worthy of being cherished, and worthy of finding your true north. Wishing you warmth, peace, and a steady heart for the journey ahead.